I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I've out loud told people in my life I have this ridiculous idea of watching all of One Piece in a month and then coming back and saying, "Hello, Milan. I've completed the One Piece." I won't spoil it, but just let that hang in the air.
I'll just do the live action TV show and I'll call it a day. I've missed my boat. I missed the boat on this point. This boat is docked on the other side of the world. I missed it.
By the time they get to their new permanent galaxy, we'll be watching The Wandering Earth 300. That wasn't supposed to sound like a Zack Snyder themed version of this, just an extreme sequel. I'm here with Brad representing Team Florida, Milan representing Team Texas, and me representing Team Illinois to talk about The Wandering Earth, which released on February 5th, 2019, the Chinese New Year. Makes sense. Chinese production. Chinese New Year is a part of the plot. With a budget of around $88 million and grossing $699.9 million. So just all, yeah. But also, I'm a simple man. 69. With a directed by Franz Guo, who I saw also directed the next two films. I think the third one isn't out yet. Based on a novel by Cixin Liu, with screenplay by. All right, considering I think I've gotten through clean, not butchering anyone's name too badly with two. I'm not going to read the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 writers and 3 consultants on the script. So please, everyone, give them your respect by going over to IMDb, and we can all know that we got out of this respecting them fully and not butchering them through me. But this came about for any extra behind-the-scenes contests. We did Project Hail Mary for the second time, but with the Three Musketeers, and we got on the topic of more interesting international space movies relative to a majority of U.S. versions, which brought us here. So I don't know if, Brad, you want to go first with your clean first thoughts, or Milan, you want to give any history to this one since this came from your knowledge of the subject?
I'll let y'all give first thoughts. I'll let y'all go ahead and take the floor first.
Cool. How did it hit for you, Brad?
I think visually, this is a really cool visual movie. A lot of the Earth scenes I really liked. A lot of the space scenes I really liked. Spoiler, this is a space movie. And a lot of the action sequences on Earth I thought were really cool. So visually, this movie's really, really good. I mean, it was in 2019 on a 50 million, 60 million budget, whatever it was. I mean, it looks like it should have been made on a $300 million budget type of thing. Visually, it's really good. With sci-fi movies and space movies, there's a certain amount of like Jedi mind trick hand waving that you need to do, and I think this movie, there's a lot of Jedi mind trick hand movement that you gotta do. Just like you just have to accept these things. These things are cool. Just you're good, and just move on with it. But I mean, overall, I thought the movie was really good. Thought it was really solid. I'd be interested in watching the second movie, and that was a double innuendo.
Nice.
Double entendre, whatever that means.
I was surprised actually how much was technically on Earth and not in space, although I think obviously through the story there's a very good justification for that. I imagine the Earth surface stuff kind of matched the purpose of the, what was that Michael Bay, Ben Affleck space movie Armageddon, like all that part. But it came in two phases for me. The first one was the first half of the movie, where at a certain point, my brain was just like, what? This is like 15 different concepts. We've got a Earth that has propulsion. Awesome. But then we also have the surface of the Earth, matrix, barren landscape. We have another civilization below ground with a little bit of a like lone shark shady side. Then we have a hell computer that's going, and it just became like, holy, this is a lot of concepts. And we have like not Iron Man hands, but like Shocker hands of like I can punch through a wall with a glove. And then in the second half, it kind of clicked for me when they had the 0% plan. That's all I'll say for no spoiler. But once that hit, I was like, oh shit, we're in the second half of this bad boy. We got all the, what would you call it? The What's the guy's name from Austin Powers Basil Exposition? All the exposition out of the way. We've set all the rules, and now let's just play. And once we were in the play era, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is hitting harder.
I'm glad they kept the scope and with this movie I don't want to say very small, but quite small, very, very direct. We don't follow a large number of people. We follow a very small group of people, which is nice for this movie because it's setting all the rules and everything. Where I hope, I know nothing about the second movie, where I hope the second movie, they expand that a little bit now that we've got the base set of rules down. But if we would have gotten a lot of characters and all of this stuff at the same time, I think it would have been like overwhelming. So I'm really glad that they had just a narrow set.
That's interesting because I almost had the opposite where I was like, there's a lot of characters. There's like this family of 4, and then there's 8 other characters, half of whom are like, I kick butt and I am here. And I got a pull through my shoulder. And I took a unique elevator ride, trying to not spoil stuff. So at a certain point, I was almost I was like, there's a little too many people for me right now. And I don't know if that was just my brain computing the number of people with all that exposition that was overwhelming me for a second. But
and you forgot the second best character, which was the clearly I'm a Chinese. What's his name? Tim.
I don't remember anybody's names, to be honest. I know
Tim was the Australian Chinese.
Oh, I think you said my God. That guy is like the implication of why he was in that cell. I was like, okay, I immediately hate you. Can you die right now? Why are you here? Why is that a part of your, just say you're drunk in the script, but sure. I remember the boy band guy with the flashlight, with so many flashlights and flashlight lightsaber moments. But Milan,
obviously I recommended this movie. It's one that's been on my list to watch for a while. So when we're kind of having the conversation about, the topic of sci-fi films and international films, it fit. But I was already really excited to watch it. And one thing that towards the end of it, without giving out any spoilers or anything like that, that I really appreciated about it, because I agree with all the same points that Brad made about everything there, but y'all made me watch Star Wars. And
sure.
One of my biggest issues with Star Wars was always just how loosely it used sci-fi as far as making things make sense, and how it at times it felt more like space and science was just the setting, but not really the world or part of the actual story, if that makes sense. Whereas with Star Trek, why I love Star Trek was that Star Trek created an entire world that was built around all of these rules of the world and things like that. It was much more, I think, granular. I felt the same way about this film. And I'm hoping that with the second film, they do also kind of then expand upon that. They use the first film to really kind of draw out those rules, help us understand what this, universe in this world feels like, and show us that there are a million different facets to this world that make sense together. And that's such a hard thing, I think, to do in a film, especially with something so as vast as this. So I really appreciated how they did it. And then I'll touch on it more when we talk about some of the specific characters and how I feel like they really blended the line of what should be real and what we're willing to accept as real, even though we know it can't be real. They blended it so very well, because there were definitely things that, even as I'm watching that makes absolutely no sense. But because of how they framed it and because of the rules of the rest of the world, if you put yourself in that world, you're willing to, have that moment of suspension of belief just enough to be like, okay, you know what, in this world, I can accept this as possible truth. And so I appreciate that they took the time to be that delicate with it and kind of build in those undertones. So I really enjoyed this movie, if you can't tell. But I love these types of films.
Nice. Is it the specificity of the science that has an extra element for you that draws you in further?
I wouldn't say so much it being specific as much as it being intentional. Because I feel like sometimes with Star Wars, they put things in for the sake of being cool and not for the sake of intent. So it didn't actually serve a purpose to the greater scheme or the world itself. Whereas everything they did here felt intentional. And even if it didn't make full sense, or it kind of was that wouldn't work in our universe, it felt intentional enough for me to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to accept that as fact in their world. So like, that's something that I really appreciate about like hard sci-fi versus, you know, what I consider soft sci-fi like Star Wars.
Nice. I almost made the joke because I just assumed that you had seen this movie beforehand, but I almost made the joke that we were all going in blind together. But yeah, this was a nice one. How did you all watch it? Did you watch it with subtitles on, or did you go English dub?
The first time I watch any foreign film, I'll always watch it subtitled in the original.
I watched it dubbed because I was being lazy.
No, me too. I have old contact lenses in because part of the accident was me breaking my glasses, and they've been weirdly out of focus sometimes. So I'm like, you know what? In terms of avoiding turning this from a 2-hour film to a 3-hour film, I'd be like, let me get some eyedroppers in. I went for the dub and was also feeling quite lazy, but it still worked. Like, I don't know if I'm weird because I was fine with the first season of Squid Game's dub, and I know a lot of people say that's bad, but
for speaking of the dub, I felt that the dub felt lazy because it felt like it was like 2 or 3 different voice actors doing everything. I know that there are a certain amount of characters, so you don't really want like a whole audio team to do all of the dubbing for this movie. You don't want, 15, 20 voice actors, especially for minor characters. But it just felt kind of lazy because it felt like a lot of people were the same voice actors. So if they weren't focused on the screen, you couldn't really differentiate who was speaking at that time. So I did have subtitles on too at the same time. So that helped me cheat a little bit, but it did get confusing if you weren't like 100% locked in reading subtitles.
It did feel weird. It felt like there was some weirdness with the spatial mix as well. Because certain lines, I would be like, wait, does anyone in this shot say that line? No? Okay, I'll have to wait for the next cut to see who finishes this line. And that happened probably like a dozen or 2 times, where the audio was so clean, it didn't sound like it was actually in the space. But did we have any Bradley Cooper's trivia? Bradley Cooper's, but sexier than the real thing?
No, the only thing I've got trivia-wise I'll bring up during the spoiler section, because somebody did the math for the concrete that needed for this needed for the jet engines. So
okay. Cool. Anyone want to go first for the letterbox or not the letterbox, the 420 review?
Sure. Leave no man behind. Took that to heart. Humanity's only true hope is believing in humanity. Don't listen to Moss.
Brad?
Sun decides it's hungry. Earth installs turbojets. Physics says peace out. Earth hits traffic stop. Gonna be less cloudy.
And mine was first half overly verbose. Then comes the sauce. Sun drives bumper cart. We drive the Earth through adventures with Jupiter. And I meant to say this at the beginning. I want to start shouting out the letterbox scores. This one has a 2.8 on letterbox. As we'll go further, and I'm sure they'll give more context to what that rating culture is over there. But
so just to be clear, it's 2.8 out of 5, right?
Yes.
Not out of 10. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, and it's an actual average, unlike Rotten Tomatoes, which is just how many people said it was better than a 60%. Or, in other words, how many people said it was a passing grade. A movie with all 60% scores would be called 100% of Rotten Tomatoes, but a movie with 40% or 80% 5 stars, but 20% 1 stars would be called an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, if that makes sense. So it's a little wonky. So I want to shout out something more straightforward. But in terms of ratings, we've got the dope rating, which nobody ever wants me to say. Recap, but it goes from S to F with a wild card, and it starts with ayahuasca, mushroom, edible joint, or skunky, and that wild card is a Molly, where it's like, this is definitely Armageddon by Michael Bay, because it's great, but it's not great, but it's kind of great. So where do you all land with The Wandering Earth?
It's an edible for me. I find it very enjoyable. I'm looking forward to watching the second one, and I already feel pretty confident that I'll watch, whatever sequels they make as they finish out the written series and things that they're using for inspiration and whatnot for it. and I would recommend it to any of my friends who I know like sci-fi, especially something that's a little bit different. Like, I appreciated, obviously this is coming from the original author, but I appreciated the slight twist on the take of how do we get the heck out of here, and kind of what that would mean for us as a civilization. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Instead of the Firefly version of a bunch of ships or the Fantastic Four version of let's teleport. Brad?
I think I'm gonna give it a joint. I think it was a solid movie, visually stunning, very interesting plot. The hardest things for me is kind of like the hand waving part of it. I think there was a lot of hand waving that we needed to do to get there. But overall, I mean, once the movie started flowing, you started understanding like why everything was the way it was. It was solid. It was a solid movie. I'm interested in watching the second movie.
I guess technically, since you could have a rating go up or rating go down, this isn't a perfect thing to say, but I'm just going to end up being the Thanos of the group and having my rating be perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Because for me, it's a jointy edible, right in the middle-ish between you two. But yeah, I actually love that the concept is, no, they're going to be flying for 1,000 years. Like, you technically could just have this be the longest running series on Earth if they were always
2,500 years. It was 2,500. It was 100 generations.
2,500 years. Yeah, you're right.
Or no, it was 1,000 generations. That's what I think what they did.
Yeah, because they were like, we'll have 750 years of slowing down after 150 years of drifting, after 500 years of acceleration. But then, just a long. And I love that the first movie is just like, no, we're not even out of the solar system. We got a slingshot and not die. But yeah, we'll be like last time launching into spoilers in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I was just about to say the one thing I wanted to talk about and I completely blanked. What hit most for y'all?
I thought the concept of basically putting turbojets on the Earth was super interesting. And like, it's something that I'd never really thought of to do that. Again, like the hand waving part of it, like the amount of materials that you would need, what fuel source are they using, how are they replenishing the fuel source on what we have here on the planet. Like there's like certain things. Or
later with the Jupiter push, it's like, I've just atomized all of the surface I just hit, but now all the engines are working perfectly. Oh, I atomized everything except for this small area where the main characters were.
Getting all of the entire planet to work together, having to basically sacrifice a large part of your population because they didn't get to go underground, so they basically just froze above ground, which kind of sucks. So stuff like that. Just I thought it was like even with that stuff, it was interesting.
Yeah, I love the idea of what's happening is just the Earth is kind of becoming an ever increasing in size heartbeat. It's like, yeah, it just goes out. Then it goes back in, and then it's like, I'm closer, and it goes back in, and in 100 years it'll kill us. I'm just like, that's also just a very interesting concept that I could use a whole movie to explain. Like, yeah, I don't know, a black hole and whatever the antithesis of a black hole both spawn in the middle of the sun and start getting all this size and mass, and then it shrinks. I don't know, but
our sun in our world and our timeline, not necessarily our timeline, but in this reality, will at some point expand to the point where it swallows up, I think, Earth and Mars before it's basically super condenses onto itself. So our sun will eventually do that. Hopefully not anywhere in our lifetime or anything that anybody that'll even remember our names, but it will do that at some point in time.
Oh shit, I just hit my knee again. All right, I'm doing great, guys. Milan, since you have a lot more experience in this area of sci-fi, how did this rank for you, or how did this hit with your experience, your broader knowledge of the subject?
I mean, I think to some of the points of like the hand waving and, there not being quite as many answers given, especially in that explanation period to really kind of set the stage appropriately, whatever, at least to make it feel more realistic. In comparison to some of the other like content that I've watched, I definitely feel like with sci-fi, especially, maybe this is also just the same with across cultures, but the Chinese, Korean, and Japanese sci-fi TV shows that I've seen, like the level of depth within certain things is on a completely different level. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that stood out with this one. And I was kind of expecting that because I don't do a lot of sci-fi movies internationally. It's usually a lot of like sci-fi TV shows. So going into it, I was expecting to have some of that same level of depth. So when I didn't get it, at first I was a little bit off put. But again, like I said, I kind of was willing to ignore some of it for the sake of immersing myself within their reality and everything like that. But it does make me super curious as to like the actual content. Like I would love to actually read the book if, you know, they had it translated and everything like that to kind of see what they couldn't fit into the first movie. You know, how many of them are they doing? But with all of that, I think there are two things that I wanted to make sure I brought up when we talked today. The first one was the grandfather. I absolutely loved the entire way that they wrote his character, his role within the family and his role within the story. Because from the very first scene where you have him, you know, sitting outside of what I believe was the underground city, like the future underground city and everything like that, and they're camping out there, you already had this sense from him of like, this future is not what I want, but I'll do what I need to for my family. So in that moment of his passing, it was kind of like he got the opportunity to leave in the way that he initially had wanted to. At least that's what I got from that, because I didn't get the feeling that he wanted to, not that he didn't want it, obviously he wanted to be there with his grandchild, but like if he had it his way, he wouldn't have been underground or whatever, or anything like that. Obviously, his daughter would have survived and she would have been the one there. So like how they wrote that and the timing that they did for all of that, like the fact that they had it where they made it seem like for an instant that he was going to survive when he got thrown out of the elevator shaft. And I was like, oh, fantastic. And then you see that moment where the air starts hissing. And you're just like, oh, like all of it happens in such a beautiful way that it felt sad. Like I was bawling. Like Aaron looked over at me and I was, but it was like, yes, I was sad, but it also felt so beautiful in that moment because I felt that sense of like, I don't know, there was just something that you got from that scene, that last scene where he just sits in the chair and he's accepting of everything. And he doesn't seem sad necessarily about the moment. He's just sad about not knowing whether or not his grandchildren are safe. Like that was so beautiful. But the other aspect that I think they did really well was Moss. Like I loved how they did Moss. I have always had kind of mixed feelings about AI characters in movies and TV shows because sometimes they go one way where it's like super, super analytical and there's like no grace for like, you know, humanity or human emotions or anything like that. Or they go the complete other way where it's like, I am an AI android who wants to be human. So I'm replicating all of this other stuff. And they were right in the middle in an area that I always kind of put data, where very analytical, very in that mindset of, you know, logic is important, but I also understand humanity, human emotions, and I'm going to give that grace. Because that moment where he does kill one person, but you know, when he comes in or when the father comes in to the station or whatever, after he just gets done killing the best friend, you know, he lets him in and he's just like, all right, you made it in. Let's have a heart to heart. I got to be honest with you. This is what's happening. I'm going to give you a moment to breathe and let's catch up now. And let's see if we can come to an understanding, and I'll like put you back in hibernation. And even, you know, at the end where it's like, you know, where he fights back at the very, very end, he's like, no, we need to drop this fuel. In that moment, I firmly believe that if Moss really wanted to kill the father, he could have. But it was kind of that thing where it's like, these dang humans, you know, they just can't listen and do what they should be doing. You know, so I'm just going to let this human do what he's got to do type of situation. And I love the fact that they went that route instead of, and again, this is probably to the writer's credit, not necessarily to the movie itself, but they created that balance rather than having it just be a strictly logical, analytical function that didn't care about what was going on one way or the other. That gave it a level of depth that I really, really love. And it made it to where I feel like the decision at the end had a lot more gravity because it didn't feel like it was just no, this is what's right. It was like, man, I've gone through all of this. I've heard all of your thoughts on this. I know what you're feeling. I don't quite know, but I kind of know what you're feeling. And this just isn't the right choice. Like when you take it from that perspective, it hits so much deeper. And you're just like, man, they're making this choice and they still got to go all this way to get where they got to go. What does this mean for them next? Like, is Moss even still around? Is he going to be, in the next film to kind of help guide them in some capacity? Like, he is what got them where they are now. So it just leaves so much there. So I absolutely love Moss's character. And I really loved how they did the dynamic for the family, especially the grandpa. I feel like without the grandpa, that entire family dynamic wouldn't have hit or worked the way that it did.
And to your point, I mean, there's probably like 1 second. Just respond with everything you've given. But two of the things, the space station and Moss, when it was still in the we're building all the rules phase, at a certain point I was like, why do we have a space station just to be like, yeah, we're going straight? Can't you just like put everything towards the Earth? And then when Moss showed up, I was like, and now we've got a HAL from 2001, and I'm trying to just juggle everything. But it was so elegant when it was explained of like, no, this is the backup plan. You could say, yeah, we're leading you, but it's really if that shit fucks up, we got a smaller backup plan, and we're just not going to tell you. And to your earlier point about the grandfather, you mentioned, in hindsight, probably my favorite scene of him telling his grandfather, like, this is the only way that I make sure that my son, your grandson, survives, and you need to be his guardian. Even with the later reveal of the mother who was in a coma, I believe, it felt so refreshing, because in every other movie you would have seen him be like, no, we should just roll the dice. Like, you can't do this. You shouldn't do this to your son. And then eventually be like, okay. But no, just very human, very quick. It's like, yeah, no, this version sucks, but it guarantees that my grandson, his son, survives. So of course we're going to do this instead of a 1 in 3 chance that they survive just on an unfair coin flip or roll of the dice or whatever. So that felt very different and very human, where he's like, I hate this, but I get it, and I got to do it. And that's it. That was the most important thing to do. Kind of like in Godzilla -1 with the neighbor who's like, don't ask me to help with that damn baby. Here's my gruel. Oh, you guys suck. You took it from me. It's just like, just getting to the duty of it and not wasting our time with the fluff or what feels more empty or unrealistic or hollow these days. But damn, I did not expect the dad to go out like that. I thought we were going to actually get in a reunion.
I was so mad when I realized what was actually happening. Like, I was so prepared to just start screaming at the screen. You said dump the fuel. That is not dumping the fuel. Like, come on. But I get kind of what was going on with the rest of that.
And he kind of threw away their backup plan too, because I would imagine that all of the embryos and everything are on the spaceship and not on Earth.
Well, that's what because he let go of the hibernation chambers, because he saved everybody on there. So were the things stored in the hibernation chamber, or are they stored in the command center?
I would imagine the hibernation center, but I mean, I guess I don't think they told us outright.
Exactly. So that's where I think it left it up in the air for us to maybe find out in part 2.
But then you also dumped all your fuel too. So, I mean, I don't know how much fuel they have left to send the embryos and 2 seeds of every plant on Earth or whatever.
Well, having not read the books, I'm hoping that they were forced to land on Earth and rejoin the rest of the civilization on their trek.
Or worst case scenario with regards to the embryos on the International Space Station. I mean, just genuinely, we have the backup plan of free range embryos. So I think the
just
biggest
gonna land somewhere.
No, I mean, like, just people. Like, there are still 3-point-something trillion people. So we didn't actually need the space station embryos, technically. That was just the ultimate, like, well, if everybody fucking dies and we've got 30 people, let's do what Zod and Man of Steel wanted to do and make a baby farm. And you'll all raise 50 babies apiece until we've got a civilization up and running. The biggest potential loss was the digitized history of people, but I gotta imagine if that's on the space station, then it's back down on Earth as well. So
I mean, but the seed banks, all of that kind of stuff, like where was all of that stored?
I mean, I genuinely think that they have all that stuff underground.
Oh,
now they just had that as the last resort.
I see.
Yeah. We've kind of got a Matrix-esque society underground. We had like 10 minutes of it, but yeah, I don't even know where this goes, because the most unique things I feel have been done, but I'm sure that's not true if they're on to a third one.
No, there's still so much they can do. I mean, they're just now passing Jupiter after almost getting sucked in. There's so much they can do. I mean, now that you've done all that, now you could be off track. Maybe they don't have the guiding ship anymore, so now they've got to kind of figure out everything. Like, now they have to set up some kind of thing on Earth. I mean, there's so many other problems they could run into. They start running into radiation.
Oh wait, are they still aliens at that point?
I don't know if we've had any mention of aliens yet, but that would be.
Well, no, I'm saying would they be considered aliens if we are the ones hurling through space on this planet?
Kinda. Be a really big spaceship.
They're aliens to
Since I don't have an answer to that, I'll just say we've all got our own accents.
I'm gonna define it like the Supreme Court did for pornography. It's hard to define, but when you see it.
And if those giant squid monsters with one singular eyeball in the middle see us as aliens, then I guess we're aliens. Well, your original question is, are we the aliens? We can't judge that.
But yeah, there's so many things they could run into. Asteroids, radiation, all the problems you're going to have on Earth having a single society, countries or areas not working together. I mean, there's so many other things you could run into.
I mean, even at the end, they have quite the robust trucking system for a surface of Earth that should just have constant storms. And I know they had some, but I think I felt the storm in Mad Max Fury Road more than any specific storm in this film. So I'd be really curious to see that.
Did they explain part of that though? Was that on the light side of the planet or something, when all of the things were powered, it was doing something to the atmosphere to reduce the storms?
I don't know. And it's curious to me because they're living on the side that has the thrusters, or are they?
Well, there's thrusters all over, but they change it. Yeah, depending on what they're doing or where they're going. And also just I know it's great for a visual, but I'm like, wait, if there's a light side, then there's a sun that's constantly in front of you, technically speaking, with shadows. But I guess that would almost always be the case though, right? Almost, unless you're
going through a really dark
moving,
space. Technically speaking, they would always be moving towards light. So I guess it would be there's more light on there from stars. And they're
still in our solar system, so they haven't left yet.
Yeah.
And the sun is growing because they haven't stayed to
so
move.
They're still feeling that.
But if they're going towards Jupiter, then the side with the thrusters has to be the light side of the Earth. So yeah.
They were on the light side. Yeah, and they were on the light side. I
completely forgot that we were still in the galaxy. I was like, we're not even near a sun. It was a cool visual to have the father have the drawings of Jupiter next to each other. How long was that a jump? Like 17 years?
It had been 12 years.
12 years, okay.
And then it was 12 years for when he was there, I think.
The math of that must be so weird of like, well, we're constantly rotating. So what distance could we go? How long would it take? 12 years? Okay, let me calculate. Where will Jupiter be in 12 years? But yeah, this was a unique, to your point earlier, a uniquer experience than some other space films that I've experienced here. So this is cool. I'm just still waiting for Galvatron to show up. I was trying to make a Transformers reference of Robot Planet since we've already got thrusters.
Oh,
we can make this franchise more than meets the eye.
Flew by me.
Anything else about it's glitching for me. Anything else about The Wandering Earth for you both?
No. I mean, I would recommend it. I mean, it's definitely a good sci-fi movie. So if you're a fan, I think this would be up a lot of people's alleys. But if you're not into sci-fi movies, then I think the beginning part might turn you off of like the rules and getting the rules established. Might turn off people that aren't sci-fi people.
Anything else for you, Malone?
No. I enjoyed the film. I would definitely recommend it. And I look forward to watching the next one.
Yes. All right. So compared to Project Hail Mary, is The Wandering Earth better? Yay or nay?
I enjoyed Wandering Earth more than Project Hail Mary.
Brett?
I'll go the other way. I enjoyed Project Hail Mary more than this. Not that this wasn't a good movie. I think it'd be easier to watch Project Hail Mary than it would be to watch this.
Sure. I think because of the easier focus or simpler focus, I'm going to go with Project Hail Mary as well. Because, yeah, this it all evened out in the end. It was just a lot to juggle for a lot of the movie. But easy answer for this one, compared to the dual legend of Hail Godzilla minus Mary. I think that was the one. Is The Wandering Earth better than that dual force of cinema?
Not better than the duo. Even with just Godzilla by itself, I think I would be hard pressed to. It would be a tough one for me on that. So I'm gonna say with the duo, it's gonna stay.
Yeah, because I don't even think this would beat out Godzilla for me. I think this would be at least third, probably maybe a little farther.
That's fair. Well, I mean, this movie may be an edible, maybe a joint, or maybe a jointy edible, but no matter what, this movie is dope because movies are
dope.
Dope.
Bye-bye now.
I'm living in a movie, there's a scene you gotta jump. I got my people at the viewing who all knew me selling tickets. Yeah, they talking about the beauty. I see Scorsese outside saying this isn't cinema. Free man, I ain't doing shit tomorrow, I don't need plans. I'll be kicking it till April off of $3 grand. I don't even need the money, I just need fans. I just need fans.